Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole Darling. I am the head of career success at Nexford University. I've worked across the career development landscape from high schools to universities to tech boot camps, helping learners build meaningful careers at every stage. At Nexford, I lead our efforts to ensure that learners are career ready through coaching, curriculum, and employer connections. Today, I am so excited to welcome our NexPulse guest, Julia Arpag. She is the CEO and founder of Aligned Recruitment. It is a tech-focused recruiting firm that she launched in August of 2023, which just hit $1 million in revenue in under 2 years. She announced that yesterday, so I was super excited. I get the goosebumps thinking about it, all while not taking any outside investment. She's also negotiated over $10 million in candidate salaries. Today, she is going to share the key job search strategies and insights that she has attained over the years so that you can position yourself for new opportunities. Okay, so hi, Julia. Thank you so much.
Hi, Nicole.
Yeah.
My pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Oh, me too. Okay, so let's get started. Can you share a little bit about what got you into recruitment in the first place, and then what led you to starting your own firm?
I would love to. So recruiting is an incredible profession for people who are naturally curious, naturally extroverted, love talking to people. All of those fit me. So I kind of stumbled into it actually after college and realized it's what I wanted to do. I started in higher education, just like you, and then made my way to corporate recruitment from there. So it's been a total blast. I've loved every step of the way. And then as far as starting my own agency, so I started Aligned Recruitment 2 years ago, like you said, and I had been considering going out on my own for about a year at that point, just because if you're a good recruiter, if you have a phone and a laptop, that's all you need. You can just go for it. But what really kicked me out of the nest is I actually got laid off 5 weeks after I had my second son. The company I worked for at the time went out of business. The CEO called me. He was like, there's no more money left. There's no more clients left. I'm so sorry. I know you just had a baby. I can't even tell you. So it actually really didn't freak me out because I'd already been thinking about going out on my own. But it did give me a lot of empathy. That was the first time that I'd been laid off. So it gave me a lot of empathy for job seekers who are in a position of like, the rug just got pulled out from under me. What do I do now? So we've scaled so fast over the past 2 years. Like you said, we just hit $1 million in revenue, which I'm very proud of our team for doing that. We've scaled so fast because we recruit with that empathy. We recruit with the best interest of our candidates in mind and the best interest of our clients in mind.
That's fantastic. It is interesting. There's been so many layoffs that we've seen over the last, 4 or 5 years, especially. And it really is something that's commonplace now. And I hope that sort of through the questions that I'm going to ask you and the questions that you get from viewers, we can kind of help them move forward in that. But I always think, when one door closes, another one opens. And so sometimes, like just with you, you got that extra little push that you needed, probably the perfect time to do it. And look what you've created. So I think that's a testament to being laid off is not always a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into what job seekers need to know. What are the top 5 skills that employers are already prioritizing? So how can job seekers start developing those top skills today?
Yeah, great question. So that's going to differ wildly from role to role. So I always say you've got to have at least 50% of the experience listed in the job description, just as hard skills. That's a non-negotiable. You are wasting your time if you have less than 50%. Now, you should not wait till you have 100%. You should definitely go for the job, go ahead and apply, even if you only hit 50, but you've got to have at least that much of what's required as far as the hard skills go. As far as soft skills, the 5 things I see hiring managers asking the most are: number 1, are you gritty? Can you persevere through hard situations? Number 2, do you take initiative? Do you have a bias for action, or do you wait around and wait for someone to tell you what to do? Number 3, are you using AI? So it doesn't have to be something you've been assigned. Actually, when I have a candidate tell me, oh no, I don't use AI because my company doesn't do that, that's a red flag to me. I'm like, well, no one has to wait to be told to do it. Just go do it. So I do see hiring managers asking that a lot. Number 4, do you lead from whatever position you're in, whether you're actually a people leader or not? Are you, again, taking initiative, seeing opportunities where you haven't been told to necessarily do a certain project, but are you taking it on anyway? Are you leading in whatever capacity is possible in your current position? And then number 5, you've got to be humble. You've got to be willing to pivot. You've got to be willing to change what you're doing to make it better for the company, better for your leader. You've got to have that attitude of always being a learner.
That's great. So you talked a lot about, what's interesting to me is 50% on the tech stuff, but then we're talking a lot about soft skills, which speaks to me about your personal brand, right? And how your
personal brand and your character. Like branding is like external, right? It's what people see. But everything I just listed, that's going to come out. Like even if you're acting a certain way or branding or marketing yourself a certain way, you have to you have to walk the talk, right? Like this is stuff that you can't develop overnight. You need to be developing that rock solid character for every area of your life, but especially for your job search, because that's what gets you the money that gives you the life that you want to lead. So it is so important to be developing those soft skills immediately if you're not already.
Yeah, and those come out through those interview questions. So those are the reasons why you're getting asked those questions, like, tell me about a time you failed. Tell me about a time you came up against a challenge. How did you handle it? All of those sort of answers, right, are going to be the ones that really speak to what you just talked about. And how do you show that and prove that you're worth the risk of a hire? Okay, so we have a lot of mid-career people because of layoffs, either because of layoffs or just looking to pivot into a new career, want to do something that makes them a little bit happier, right? What are the hottest job roles right now, and what makes someone a strong candidate for them?
Love that question. So if someone is doing a cold turkey pivot, like you're going from something else completely different to something else completely different, I always recommend go into tech sales. Go into tech sales. If you have the soft skills, and if you're able to find a company that's willing to take a gamble on you, you can quickly probably make as much money as you were, depending on what you were doing before, and way more. Like as long as you're gritty, as long as you take initiative, as long as you lead from whatever position you're in, that is, since I started recruiting 10 years ago, sales has probably been the most in-demand job all the time. Like during COVID, when the world was so unstable and so crazy, I wasn't laid off because I was working for a company that recruited tech salespeople. So if anything, COVID was insane for me because I was like, banging my head against the wall trying to find really, really strong sellers because there's a ton of turnover in the industry. It's really tough. You get said no to, you get ignored, you get people that, you work with them for months and months and months and the deal doesn't close. So you've got to have that resilience. But if you do, and if you're motivated, you can freaking kill it.
I love that you brought up resilience. As a career coach, my experience has always been the people that usually do extremely well in a job search are those that have been in sales, in the entertainment industry, people that are acclimated to no and getting negative feedback because it doesn't bother them. They literally just keep going and keep persevering. But those that are a little bit, take that a little bit too hard, tend to really struggle in the job search. Has that been sort of your experience as well?
Oh, of course. My number one recommendation to every job seeker, whether you work in sales or not, is that you have to run your job search like a sales funnel. Like you've got to have your list of prospects, then you've got to be sending them individualized messages, then you've got to be kind of maintaining that rapport throughout the interview process, then you've got to close them on every single interview. So even if you're an engineer, even if you're a product manager, even if you're an operations specialist, you have to run your job search funnel like it's a sales funnel.
Yeah, and not worry about the no's because the yes will come. And that's what I used to love about coaching salespeople because okay, I just got to know. And that didn't faze them at all because they knew they were just one step closer to a yes and it didn't deter them. So I love that.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a huge shift I made because in my own career, when I opened up my own firm, I suddenly worked in sales. Like if you're a founder, you have to get people to buy your product. Like in order to actually recruit, I had to get clients that I could recruit for. So for the first time ever, I was selling. And it really helped to shift my mindset that every no is closer to the next yes that I'm going to get. So that's got to be your mindset when you're job searching, or else to your point, you will get discouraged and you will burn out.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. All right, let's talk about resumes because I know this is such a hang up for a lot of people. They're so like sort of stuck on the fence where I don't know, do I put this in my resume? Do I put that in my resume? Do I put pretty flowers on it? Do I put a photo on it? What do I do with my resume? I don't want to do the wrong thing. I want to include everything I've ever done in my entire life on my resume. It's so hard because they're getting told in a lot of different directions on what should be there. They don't want to miss an opportunity by not having it all on their resume. So let's talk resumes. What do recruiters actually look for when they first look at that resume? And what do they ignore, no matter how flashy it seems to be on the paper? Give us a little insight there.
So resumes are 1% of why you do or don't get the job. So if you're over focusing on your resume, you're wasting your time. That is not a good use of your time in your job search. It needs to be clean. It needs to be professional. It needs to be as succinct as possible. I really try to stick with no more than 2 pages. If you're 30 years into your career, I get that it might be tough to fit it all on 2 pages. But what it shows me, if I get like a 7-page resume, is that you're all over the place. You don't know how to be concise. You don't know how to be succinct. You don't know how to describe your experience compellingly. So I would say, first of all, don't be dramatic about it. Like, don't spend too much time on your resume. Number 2, I would say pictures are always weird. Like, do not put a picture on your resume. I think that's creepy. I'm not going to not hire you because your picture's on your resume, but I will be like, that's weird. Okay, so let me just say that. And then number 3, I would say the first thing recruiters look for, obviously your job titles have to match the current job title that we're recruiting for, or at least be in the ballpark. And then I want bullets that have numbers. I want to know, like, okay, you were a project manager in your last position. What was the ROI? What was the ROI of one of your biggest projects? What did you personally spearhead, lead, execute, accomplish? Like, I want nitty gritty numbers as much as possible in all of the roles that you've held recently.
Yeah, I think that speaks to, I always tell my clients, to value. Like, if you're going to make that investment and even your reputation to move a client forward to, the hiring manager, you have to have, be able to see that value that candidate has offered in past experiences. So to speak to those numbers, those metrics, quantify it the whole bit, that speaks to the value they've added in the past. And if it's a good guess that they're going to add that value to your position that you're putting so much money and time into in the future. So so critically important. All right. AI resumes, their screenings is certainly a mystery to a lot of job seekers. We hear about ATS or applicant tracking systems that filter candidates because we know that in any one job, you could see over 1,000 candidates. And so they have to have software that helps them move through that. How should resumes be adapted to help them move past ATS and actually get human eyes on their resume if they're applying online?
You've got to have those critical skill sets on your resume. So if you're applying to be a software engineer, but your resume is that of a tech salesperson, you're not going to get seen by a recruiter because the AI is going to say, hey, this is irrelevant. Don't waste your time. They're not even in the right field. So make sure you look at the job description. I get so much crap for this because people are like, well, I just want to shoot my resume out to 100 different jobs and not have to tailor it for each job description. Okay, then you won't get an interview. That's fine, but you're just wasting your time. So you really do have to tailor your resume for each individual job that you apply for. Pick the keywords directly out of the job description and put them in your resume where it makes sense. That is the number one way that you're going to get seen by an actual recruiter and then get an interview.
Yeah, I think that's so much easier now because we do have AI. We can, take a job posting and put it through AI and ask for those keywords so that you know what, are more than likely the keywords that are in that ATS system. Yeah. And then make sure that they're on your resume. So it's a little bit easier than it used to be because of AI. But yeah, I agree 100%. All right, LinkedIn profiles. I think this one's really important. What's one change that people can make today that would drastically improve how they're perceived by recruiters? Everybody wants the attention of recruiters. How do they get it? What do you guys look for?
Great question. So that's what my firm does. We're not reviewing applicants for the most part. We're headhunting them. So we're going on LinkedIn every single day. And the way that we search, we have a tool called LinkedIn Recruiter. we can type in the exact keywords from those job descriptions of our clients and pull up candidates who have those keywords on their LinkedIn profiles. So that's number one. And you've just got to brand yourself as whatever the job is that you have or that you want. You've got to include those keywords. You've got to include those skill sets. You've got to include, just the basics, like have a good professional picture, make sure that I can tell what you do in the one-liner that's right above your profile picture. Basically just showcase your expertise, showcase that you actually are in this industry, you understand this role, you've done this role. That's what we need to see, because that's what we're looking for to know if you're the right person for us to present to our client.
Let me ask you this, because there seems to be like so much diverse opinion about this on LinkedIn, which is, you might know what I'm going to ask. The green circle on your profile picture that says looking for
open to work.
Yeah, open to work. Some people say don't include it because you look desperate. Other people say no, include it because then people know you're looking for work. What's your take on that? Would you put it or not use it?
So my take is, as a recruiter, you can set yourself to open to work privately so that only recruiters can see that. I think that's your win-win, because then you're flagging to recruiters, hey, FYI, I will accept your message most likely if you message me, but then you're not flagging to like the general public that you're job hunting. I think it's ideal for you to set yourself as privately open to work. That is my best recommendation.
I love that. And that's the end of that discussion, right?
We're not going to get into the whole fight, Nicole. We're not going to be dramatic about it. We're just going to pick a side and move on.
We're going to let LinkedIn know it's been decided.
Yep. Announcement. No more fight.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about something. Again, I saw a great post on LinkedIn today about bias, age bias in particular. And I really want to hear your take on this. Age bias for professionals who feel that they're being passed over due to age. What are some of the smart positioning strategies that actually work? And also, are you seeing this, in sort of your work? We have a lot of layoffs, as we've mentioned, and we've seen it for the last 3 years. A lot of these people are in their upper 40s, 50s, and even their 60s, and they're not done working yet. They want to continue to work and flourish in their jobs and their careers. Do you see the age bias, and how do you kind of combat that when you've got a client that is a little bit older?
Yeah. So my number one recommendation to job seekers who are more tenured in their career, make sure that your experience matches what the jobs that you're applying for are asking for. So it's not age bias if a company is recruiting for someone with only 5 years of experience, and then someone with 30 years of experience applies, gets rejected, and then sees someone way younger that got the job. It's most likely because they were more in line with what that company was actually looking for. So if you're more tenured, just make sure that you're applying for jobs that match your experience, match your years, match your expertise. That's my number one recommendation. My number two recommendation is, yes, there are going to be, we recruit for mostly startups. There are going to be startups who are like, we only want the 20, like I'm too old, right? Like I'm in my 30s, I have kids, I have a husband. They're like, if you can't work 70 hours a week in our Manhattan office or in our Silicon Valley office, like we don't want anything to do with you. Great. Awesome. Love that. So I would say vet out the culture. A company is usually pretty transparent. Like you can look at their values, you can look at their Glassdoor reviews, you can kind of get a sense for what they value, how they work, who they are. And if it doesn't resonate with you as a professional or as an individual, don't even bother. Don't waste your time. Because the reality is, yes, some companies are going to be ageist, and you just don't want to spend your time or spin your wheels putting your hat in the ring for those kinds of jobs.
I love that. And I think it speaks to, I kind of got used to doing that myself, which was looking at company culture. Look to see who they have on staff. Do they have older people on staff? When did they start? Like LinkedIn is great for that because you can research a company, look at the people that work there, how long have they been working there, and you can get a really good feel quickly. Are they open to hiring folks that are a little bit more experienced and a little bit older? But it is, it certainly is I think a hot topic for sure, but great feedback. Yeah. All right, let's talk about career gaps, or even what we used to call job hopping. You and I have a very strong opinion on supposed job hopping, which is different than what most people, I think, would think about it. So I'm just going to let you go and tell me about how you feel about job hopping And then how do you feel about how people explain, career gaps? So you've taken some time off, or maybe it took you 6 months to a year to find a job. How do you explain that in an interview?
Yeah, I am very pro job hopping. Like, go get a job that is a good fit for you. So now hear me say, some of my clients won't interview someone unless they've been at their current job for 3 or more years. Okay, fair. Some companies die on that hill. They keep that stance. That's a choice they get to make. Okay, no problem. What I'll say though, is that especially since 2020, I have seen hiring managers really kind of loosen their stance on that, where they understand the world changed radically overnight. The job market has really never recovered. Like, we went from COVID to a massive economic boom to a massive economic recession to it's still pretty shaky. So when we see people that have job hopped 3, 4, 5 times in the past 5 years, we just want to know why. Like, as a recruiter and as a hiring manager, we just want to hear the story. So I would say, if you job hop every 6 months and it's because you hate your manager everywhere you go, the problem's probably you. The problem's probably not that every single manager happens to be a jerk. There's probably something. Yeah, you need to look in the mirror. But if you job hopped because you got laid off, and then you job hopped because the company had a mandatory return to office and you weren't willing to commute an hour and a half one way, like, that's totally legit. So I would say, in general, I've seen the industry really soften its stance on job hoppiness. And I would say you need to be proactive, and you need to always be prepared to get a new job. Even if you're happy where you are, there's literally no downside to just keeping yourself kind of up to date on industry best practices, keeping your personal marketing and branding up to date, and then being prepared to take a better opportunity for you when it comes up.
Yeah, this is so interesting, because I think people in my generation, we kind of grew up that, you worked for a company for 5, 6, 7, 8 years. Like, that was standard. I mean, even before me, it was the IBMers that were there for 20, 30 years and then getting a pension, which, what's a pension now, right? Yeah. So, that was the mindset, that you could not hop like that. And we talked a little bit earlier about it. And it really was that time period right after COVID where I would still coach clients and tell them, you got to be careful about job hopping. You don't want to switch too much. But things have changed so much over the last 5 years that I don't think that exists. On the extreme, like you pointed out, that 6-month hop, or if, you've gotten laid off or those kind of things, those are understandable. I mean, you certainly don't want to be switching a job every 6 months. But I think the standard, which used to be 5 or 6 years, is really down to 2, 3 years. So if you can feel a job out for 2 or 3 years, and then you move on, not considered job hopping anymore. So those in my generation, relax, take a breath. you can switch jobs. You don't have to stay there for 30.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. And yeah, to your point, like, there's really no reward for loyalty. Like, typically you actually get more rewarded if you switch jobs, because you're likely to get a bigger pay bump if you switch than if you stay. Now, there are some exceptions. Like, my brother, for example, works at a phenomenal tech company where he's gotten, like a 60% over the past 3 years, a 60% increase in his income for staying at that company, which is fantastic. If every company did that, we probably would see more loyalty. But typically that's not what we see. So I think as a job seeker, you've got to prioritize yourself, your family, your goals, your income, where you want to go and what you want to do.
Yeah. And that's sort of, I think, also what came to, my realization over the last 3 or 4 years, especially coaching in tech ed in the boot camp space. You saw so many layoffs. I think it was like around 2022. It was unbelievable. Every week, more and more layoffs are happening. And then I would see, the same people get hired, keep that job for maybe 6 months to 8 months to 9 months, and then get laid off again. And they're going through the cycle again. And I think at that point, what's happened is that there is not really that company loyalty that everybody talked about. That we're a family and you need to be loyal to it, because companies have not shown that in return. So I think that affects how we think about job hopping. And I certainly have changed my tune and my opinion about it. And I know you wrote a post about it just this week. And I'm like, yes, sister, I get it. I'm on board. It really is okay if you're not comfortable where you're at, or you feel like you're not in a solid position there. There's nothing to say that, if you switch jobs, that you're going to still get some more security. But if you're starting to see the waves sort of hitting, in the face and layoffs may be coming, definitely start preparing. Don't worry about you only being there for a year or 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, agreed.
All right. Interviews. Let's still talk a little bit about interviews. What's one thing that candidates can keep doing, or that they keep doing in interviews that you wish they would stop doing immediately? What makes you crazy? What are you thinking?
That's such a funny question. So again, my firm headhunts people, right? So we're going out and finding people that aren't necessarily looking for jobs. And so what I think is tough though, is that yes, we initiated the conversation, but that in order to move that candidate on to actually talk to the client, they need to bring some interest. They need to bring some energy. They need to show us why, yes, we took the first step, but now it's like a date, right? You've got to show interest in me. I've got to show interest in you. I see some candidates who are just whatever, I get headhunted all the time. And then they don't actually land any jobs because they bring that attitude into the interview where they're not being respectful. They're not taking it seriously. They're not doing their research ahead of time. They don't bring that energy and that enthusiasm. So that's my top recommendation. Even if the recruiter is the one who initiated the conversation, still do your research, still come prepared, because the recruiter is the one who holds the power to either pass you on to the hiring team or not.
Yeah. That's so interesting too. I know people that I have coached, and they could be not as qualified as some of the other candidates, but if they come in with an outgoing personality, really engaged in the interview, they'll get moved on, maybe get the job,
yes,
every single time over somebody who's just, not as interested or not appearing as interested. And I think sometimes maybe it's an extrovert introvert thing. And I'm like, you have to fake it. If you're not an extrovert, you just have to fake it for that, half hour that you're in there, that you're excited about this opportunity,
Exactly. Yeah. My favorite hack for that is from the Amy Cuddy TED Talk, where she talks about the 2-minute Superwoman pose, where you literally stand in your bathroom, you look in your mirror, you roll your shoulders back, you put your hands on your hips, and you just take a freaking Superwoman stance. And you just look at yourself and you're like, I freaking got this. So I don't care if you're introverted, extroverted. I don't care if it's the worst day of your life. You come in and you rock that interview and you let everything else go just for the time that you're in that conversation.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that advice. That's really good. And I've done that.
Good, Nicole. That's how you're so successful now. That's how it all happens.
Yep. It got me through it, at least. I don't know if the end result was successful, but at least I know it got me through what did I need to get through.
Yep.
Okay. What are the interview questions you think candidates must be ready for in 2025? And how can they prepare for those without sounding like they've written it down? Especially, I know, when you do online interviews like this, it's so tempting to want to write out these answers and then just kind of read them on the screen. Suggestion for that, what do they need to be able to answer at this point? You mentioned AI earlier. I would imagine that's part of this.
That's typically one of the questions we ask, just how are you integrating AI into your current workflows? Whether you're an engineer or you're in marketing or you're in sales, how are you using AI and how is it helping you boost your productivity? I would always be prepared to answer, like we talked about earlier, not that we're going to put you on the defensive, but we just want to know why you've transitioned from job to job over the past several years. And our goal in that really is to understand your motivation. Because I don't care if you've had 5 jobs in 5 years, but if the reason you left your last job was because you wanted to work remotely, but this job I'm interviewing you for is in an office, then it's not going to be a good fit. So I just need to know the story. I need to know the why. So be prepared to answer that. Yeah. And then, like I said, be prepared to answer why you want this job specifically. I need to hear that you understand the role, you understand the company, you understand how this is going to move the company forward, and why you are uniquely positioned to contribute to that mission and that vision.
What is, we talk about AI so much anymore, and it seems like this past 6 months, there's just been a huge push. Everybody you talk to, all the CEOs are, coming in and asking their people, you've got to get up on AI. You've got to be prepared for it. How prepared do you think are candidates at this point that you're sort of seeing and you're kind of looking at? Are they AI prepared, or do you think there needs to be more emphasis on that preparation?
The top ones are the ones who get the job are, candidly. Yeah. I mean, I think 100% of the last 5 or 6 candidates that we hired for our clients had fantastic answers to that question, where they were like, actually, I use these specific AI tools in these specific ways, and these are the results that I was able to get. And it was all stuff that they took initiative to do. Like, it's not like their boss said, you need to learn this tool and use it in this way. What's most impressive is, hey, I had this workflow. I wanted to make it more efficient. So I went out and figured out how to make it more efficient. So top candidates are using AI in that way. And anyone who chooses not to is going to see that gap widen between the A players and the B players.
Yeah, I think that's so important to say. And interesting that's what you came up with, because I do think there are some people that are thinking, I'm a little older in my career. I don't need to learn one more thing. I know my job. I do it well. But taking on that AI sort of, curriculum is so important. I know at Nexford, we've taken on AI in our classrooms and said, we're not fighting with you whether you're going to use AI in the classroom or not. We're actually bringing it into our curriculum and going, oh no, you're going to use AI and you're going to be evaluated on how you use it. So it's a little flip from a big flip, real innovative thinking, I think, on how universities will typically look at AI and what they're doing and how they're fighting it. And yet at Nexford, we're really embracing that because of the examples you just gave. Those top performers we know are going to need to know how to use AI to make their jobs easier and better and all of those things. So I love to hear that. Okay. Let's see. How can candidates show authentic energy and drive? We talked a little about this, especially over video or phone interviews. So we're pretty gregarious girls ourselves, so we don't seem to have that problem, but it is tough when you're on a video call or a phone call to kind of show that enthusiasm. Any other tips that you can give to sort of kind of get past that barrier online?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm a natural extrovert, so it's honestly hard for me to understand why people wouldn't bring energy to a conversation where they want to land a 6-figure job. I'm like, that feels like the number one place for you to show enthusiasm. But I get that is like the way I was born, right? Like I was just born enthusiastic. So it's helped me to kind of take a step back and understand my candidates and understand like what could be the barriers for them. So again, I think for a lot of people, a lack of enthusiasm comes from a lack of confidence. It comes from being afraid that you're not going to do well in the interview. You're not going to do well in the job. You've been through tons and tons and tons of interviews already and not landed a job. So maybe fear of failure, fear of like, this is never going to end. So that's why that like self-talk, resilience, like, the physical exercise I talked about earlier about the Superwoman pose, it all sounds kitschy, but it works. Like I know candidates who have started doing affirmations every single day, meditations every single day, coaching themselves on, I can do this, I got this, I'm powerful, I'm resilient. Like the way you talk to yourself matters. So even if that's not your natural bent, there are things that you can do to get yourself to the level of energy and enthusiasm that you need to have on a Zoom interview or on a phone interview, where you're able to bring that energy into your voice and into your posture so that even though we're not physically together, we can still feel that energy coming from you.
That's great. Yeah, so incredibly important. Okay, you've placed hundreds of candidates. What is one surprising trait or story that helped somebody land a job, even if they weren't the top qualified on paper?
Oh my gosh, I love that question. Actually, my favorite story about this is from way back, I want to say in 2021, I think. So a candidate of mine looked terrible on paper, super job hoppy. The client had said, we will only consider people that have been in the same job for at least 3 years. I think he'd been at his current job for like maybe almost 2 years. The previous job was a year. Job before that was a year and a half. But I talked to him, and again, he brought the energy, he brought the enthusiasm. He worked in sales. He had a great strategic mindset about how to run his sales funnel. I was like, man, I really think the client's going to want to talk to him, even though they're not going to like how he looks on paper. If I could just get them to take a chance and just have one person from their team talk to him, I know he's going to get the job. And then he did. And then the client went to my manager at the time and was like, hey, this is the best candidate we've interviewed so far. I know that we gave you guys these like tried and true standards to evaluate candidates by. But if you see an outlier like this, we want to talk to them. So that was huge because it's really helped me in my recruitment career to kind of color outside the lines and help hiring teams see like, yes, we have this list of requirements, but soft skills matter so much and emotional intelligence matters so much that we've got to be willing to make exceptions because that will only make the organization better. So that's honestly one of my favorite stories from my recruitment career.
I love that story. That's great. All right, I have one more question, and then I know we have a ton of questions that people want to ask. So I'll be quiet and ask those questions for them. But let me get this one in. If you could shout one truth about getting hired, something that job seekers just aren't hearing enough, what would that be?
Oh my gosh, stop spraying and praying. Stop sending your resume out to hundreds of job applications. Like, you are literally wasting your time. I've gone so far as to say, stop applying for jobs, period. Do not apply for jobs. When you're looking for a job, or even when you're not, when you're just happy in your career, but you should always be networking, as we all know, I want you to be sending 5 to, ideally more, 5 to let's say 30 personalized messages every single week to people in your industry, at your dream company, and your dream job, and just see if they're open to a 10-minute informational interview. See if they're open to a quick coffee chat. I get asked this all the time, and I'm in the position where I just have to say no. But previously, when I have had a little bit more bandwidth, I have been able to grab a quick 15 minutes here and there. And I'm always impressed by someone who took the time to research my background, write me a personalized note. You've got to start it about the person. So like if I were writing to you, Nicole, I'd be like, oh my gosh, kudos on killing it at Nexford. You are clearly heading the CS team with, vigor and flair, like way to go, right? Whatever. You make it about the person you're messaging, and then you tack on that little ask. So that is always my recommendation. Personalized notes, personalized messages. Yes, make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn are good. So if you do get headhunted, or if you do decide to apply for a job, all those boxes are checked, but you've got to put in the physical, manual legwork of that personalized touch.
Love that. Love that. Thank you. Okay. Got some questions for you here. We're going to take them over from our viewers and answer some of these. We already answered the question about the do not hire flag, the impact on opportunities at other companies. And you gave us such a perfect answer for that. We won't redo that one. But this one's about personal branding, which we talked a little bit about. How important is personal branding, especially on social media platforms like LinkedIn, when it comes to standing out to employers today? And what are a few simple ways I can start building a brand that gets noticed?
Great question. How important is personal branding? Extremely important. Please start, if you have not already, posting. Make sure your LinkedIn profile looks fabulous. We already talked about those tactics. But secondly, absolutely start posting content. It really positions yourself to show future hiring managers that you are an expert in this space. You know what you're talking about. You know the tools, you know the language, you've driven the projects, you've driven the success. That is what you should be posting about. That is what you should be sharing. In terms of being noticed, so personally, when I started Aligned Recruitment, I took several courses on how to post compelling content on LinkedIn. So do a quick Google search. You're going to come up with people like Toby Oluwole, Justin Welsh. Ask ChatGPT, and you'll have a whole list of people that you should start following and whose content you should start emulating. So that's my number one recommendation.
I love that. Okay. Personal brand is so important. And it's not just about how you promote yourself, is what I've learned. It's literally how you conduct yourself, right? So Your brand is, do you show up to meetings on time? Do you show up to work on time? Do you leave early? Are you dependable? Are people coming to you for a specific task because they know you're the best at it? That's all your personal brand. It's the things you don't really think about, when you're on the job, but carry with you, whether you know it or not, as you go from job to job to job, along with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So this question I think we answered too, which is in general, what should the length be of a CV, resume, and at most 2 pages, right?
Yeah.
Okay. We usually tell people like 15 years, go back about 15 years. And that's about as far as you should go. Okay. Do you have any advice on how much to share on your life resume on your professional resume or LinkedIn?
Yeah. So even before I started my own firm, I was very personal on LinkedIn. That's my preference. So I'm a mom. For 5 years, I was a foster mom. I have a husband. I have dogs. I have a very full life outside of what I do every day for my job. So it was important for me to just show up totally authentically and share those pieces of me and my background on LinkedIn. That being said, if you look at my LinkedIn profile, that's maybe 2 lines. And then the rest is about what I do professionally, how I help clients, how I help candidates. So definitely keep the emphasis on your professional life. If you want to include just like, hey, I have, a cat, a parakeet, and I love skiing, like, great, whatever, like no reason not to just throw in something personal. But I would recommend that you keep the bulk of your profile mostly professional.
Perfect. Okay. Hi, after very successful 6 years of employment, I had a gap of 2.5 years due to a personal crisis. Now I am back and looking for new opportunities. I want to be transparent. How should I approach this aspect in my resume, LinkedIn profile, and in interviews? I think those 3 things are a little bit different for each one. So how does he tackle that? One on his resume, then on his LinkedIn profile, and then how do you answer it in interviews?
Yeah. So I've actually been really impressed with candidates that have done this very, very well. So they'll just put a one-liner both on their LinkedIn and on their resume, just explaining if you're comfortable giving more context to the personal crisis. Like I know some people who explicitly said, I took 2.5 years off to care for a sick loved one, or I took 2.5 years away from work because whatever, right? Like if you can give more color there and kind of preemptively answer the question by just putting it in writing on your resume and your LinkedIn, I would say that's ideal. If you're not able to do that, then I guess I just wouldn't say anything. Like I would just kind of have like clear that gap is there. And then if and when you do get an interview, that's when, if you're comfortable, you'll share more color around what happened there and a question I always ask candidates who've had a gap: why is now the right time? Why are you now in a better position to actually start searching for a new job and landing a new job? Because that shows me if this is going to make sense or if they really aren't ready for this next job.
Yeah, and to prepare for that, I love that, because I think people don't think about that question being asked and preparing to answer that question, which is why is now the right time.
Yeah,
that's great. Okay, the AI help has been great, but do you happen to know of any tools that can cut down on the time wasted copying and pasting everything into Word and dealing with the formatting? Looking for ways to streamline that part. I'm assuming that's about resumes.
I love that question. So I don't know of a specific AI tool that does that, but I'm sure there are hundreds. So I would copy and paste that exact question into ChatGPT and it will tell you the tool that you need to buy. Like, do that right now. That'll solve your problem.
Yeah, I could say from my own experience, there are several resume tools out there that have been out there, and they actually use AI now. Everybody's incorporated, in every platform. There's an AI tool with it now. My only thing, and we've talked about this, is don't get caught up in the crazy columns and colors and images and design craziness on a resume. It may look really pretty to look at, but it won't get through ATS. And if Julia has to take 5 minutes to find out where your skill section is on this crazy, designed, resume, you're probably moving on, right? You're not going to spend that much time trying to search through a crazy designed resume. So right. Simple and basic is the best way to go. Okay. Let's see where we're at here. Is having several certificates on my resume good or bad? Is there such a thing as certificate overkill or hoarding?
It depends on the job. So a couple months ago, we hired a technical architect, and you did have to have Windows Server certificates, Microsoft Azure certificates. So if they're relevant to the jobs you're applying for, put them on there, but I would put them at the bottom. Like I would first list out your experience, and then at the bottom, I would just have a certificate section and just keep it super brief. Like don't describe it. Just say like Microsoft, 8765, like whatever the number of the certificate was. So I think that's a good thing as long as it's relevant.
Okay, perfect. I'm just jumping around here a little bit because my thing's jumping. All right. When applying to jobs that are related but tangential to what you do, that you have the requisite skills, but do not have the requisite experience, and realize that given the job market, are there a glut of candidates with direct experience that you are competing against, and how can you get a foot in the door? So basically what I'm reading is they seem to have the skill set, but not the experience. They haven't worked in a position that will show them that experience, but they had the skill set because they've been working on their own. So how are people competing against that, and how do you get your foot in the door?
Yeah, great question. So number one, personal networking. You guys should be sick of me saying this by now, but this is literally the single most powerful thing you could be doing. So for those specific jobs that you want, where you have the skill set, maybe you have the soft skills, but you haven't actually had a title, you haven't held that specific job, you have got to message the people that you're wanting to get in front of. They'll probably blow you off. They probably will ignore you, but the one who says yes is the one where you get an opportunity. So that's my top recommendation. My second recommendation, and actually this happened to me. So when my husband and I moved from New York to Atlanta 9 years ago, I took a step back from working in higher education and I worked in marketing randomly for 1 year. It was terrible. I was horrible at it. Worst year of my career. So I was like, okay, I got to get out of this. Don't want to go back to higher ed, but I do want to work in corporate recruitment. I've never done it though. How do I get my foot in the door? I met this woman at a coffee shop who worked remotely, who ran a recruitment team, and she got me in front of a hiring manager, and they said, "So sorry, you don't have any experience." So I kept applying for recruiter jobs who would take someone who had 2 years of admissions recruitment, so tangential, right, but not exactly what we're looking for, till I found a company that would take a chance on me. I got a year of experience there, and then I went and applied back at that company that I really wanted to work for, and I got that job. So it could be a long play. It might not happen today, might not happen this month, might not even happen this year. But if you have a goal and somewhere you want to go, you might have to take a step back, take a step into another company in order to get to the company that you really want to go to.
I love that answer. It really does emphasize career development planning, right? Which is, if you know where you want to go, sit and work out the logistics of it. How do you get there? Where are your gaps? How do you fill those gaps, which is exactly what you did, and then get to where you want to go. It's not going to be always a quick answer, but it will get you to your goal. So I love that answer. Right, this was interesting. So when applying for a job, is a resume necessary, or only CV alone works? So that's a tricky one, because what is the difference between resume and CV? There is difference.
I've only heard them, from what I understand, a resume is like the American word for it, and CV is the European word for it. So from what I understand, either way, it's a list of your past experience and accomplishments. So I would say, as long as you've got that, you're good. Whatever you want to call it, just make sure you've got that.
Yeah, and I think the difference in the States, at least, I mean, we all use the term resume, and we talked 2 pages. That's really what you want to be. But CV, academics use CVs or anybody in research, they'll write a much longer resume, which might be 4-5 pages, because they're listing all of their research, all of the publications they've had. But if you're not in academics or research, you should not have a 6 or 7 page, CV or resume, for that matter. That's literally the only way I can think of a CV at that point. So I know outside the States they call it a CV, we call it a resume, and it should be the same thing unless you're in academics or research. Okay. Some companies only hire temp employees for anything under a managerial position. Have you seen this sort of trend at all, where you're seeing companies come in and hire people either for 6 months and then they move on and let them go, like a 6-month contract? Is that sort of being a new thing that's happening?
No, that's not a new thing. There have always been companies that prefer to hire temp employees, which makes sense. I mean, it's typically not cheaper, but it can be easier just to have someone come in quick, do a project, move on. So yeah, there are some companies who only hire temp employees. So don't apply there unless you want a temp job. Go after the jobs you actually want.
Got ya. Okay. Does your LinkedIn profile have to mirror their CV/resume with bullet points? So should what they have on their resume me word for word what they have on their experience section on LinkedIn, or should that differ a little bit in terms of how they format it? Like, should it be in paragraph form, or should they just include the same bullets?
Always bullets, no paragraphs, never, anywhere. I don't want to see a paragraph anywhere. No way. It makes your job easier if you just have them match. Like, I don't know why you'd want to reinvent the wheel. Just put exactly what's on your LinkedIn on your resume. That's the best way to do it.
Okay, good. What is the best way to find a job, online or remote job? It is one of the most frustrating things. So I know I get asked this question all the time is, I want a remote job, or I want a remote job in the States. How do I find one?
Y'all are going to kill me. You know what I'm going to say to this? Network. You've got to put yourself out there. You've got to be personalized with your outreach. You've got to be targeted with your outreach. Like I shared from my own personal story, I knew I wanted to work remotely. But on the journey to getting that remote job, I had to take that 1 year in-office corporate recruitment gig that then allowed me to get a remote recruitment job. So you might have to go back to go forward. So my best recommendation is just have that be your end goal, but have as many conversations as you can to get there. Research as many of your target remote companies as you can to get there, and eventually you'll get there.
Okay. All right. This one's a little bit longer. In my experience, if you have stayed in the same industry and type of role, it's easier for recruiters or managers to place you. So it's easier for you to be hired. For example, lifelong sales roles, etc. As a past startup founder and consultant focused on marketing and operations, with 13 plus years of experience, it's been difficult to convince or show that a generalist can do that job with transferable skills at the right salary. What's your advice for this type of search?
Yeah, that's tough. So this is one where I would say you should have several separate resumes where you're highlighting, you're a generalist, I get that, but each resume should showcase the specific skill set of the job that you're applying for. So you should have one resume for marketing, one resume for operations, one resume for sales, et cetera, where you're highlighting only the accomplishments where they're most relevant to that job that you're applying for. And then when you are sending out those personalized messages to people that are hiring for those jobs, you're only highlighting the skills that you have that are relevant to that job that they're applying for.
Yeah, a lot of customization there. I love that. Okay. Is there any one thing that might make you stand out in an interview? Which I think we talked about a little bit.
Yeah. Energy, preparation, those are always going to be key.
Yeah. Does LinkedIn Learning actually work? Does it make you more attractive to employers? So if you show that you've taken this LinkedIn course on your LinkedIn profile, does that matter to recruiters or hiring managers? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does it actually work? Will it teach you something? Yeah. Like if you actually want to learn, definitely do LinkedIn Learning. But yeah, I've never, ever had a hiring manager be like, make sure they've taken a LinkedIn Learning course on communication. No one cares.
No one cares. Okay. What do you do when you are overqualified?
Apply for jobs that you're not overqualified for. That's my best recommendation. If you're overqualified, then you're probably shooting too low. You probably need to level up your job search and level up the types of roles that you're considering.
Okay. Does LinkedIn work only for certain fields? For example, how about teaching or the field of education?
That's a good question. So I do have several family members who are in education. They don't use LinkedIn. Like it's just really not relevant for their field. So it's not going to hurt you to have a LinkedIn profile. And I would actually recommend, that's not my field. Like I exclusively work with tech startups, so I really can't speak to that. But I would say test it. Like see how it helps you in your job search. See if it helps you land what you're looking for. Higher education, I would say that's different. So if you're looking to apply at colleges and universities to work there, absolutely, I recommend you have a LinkedIn and use it well. But my family members who work in high schools and middle schools, I have not seen them use it.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Yeah, and there's other job boards other than LinkedIn. I mean, find those, more niche job boards for whatever industry you're looking at. Okay. This is clear from Nairobi. Is your internship necessary on a CV, including your internship?
If you're young in your career, yes. So if you only have like an internship and then one full-time job, yes, I would include it. So I'm 35, so I'm not including internships on my resume anymore, right? Like if I were applying for jobs, if I wasn't running my own company. So it honestly depends on how tenured you are. I would say if you have 3 years or less of experience, sure, include the internship if it's relevant. If you have more than 3 years, don't.
Okay. What is the best resource to help me write a CV? We talked a little bit about that, but then the second part of this question is, will an AI agent actually make it worse?
I can't think of any situation where an AI agent would make it worse unless you don't do a good job of editing the AI agent's responses. So you need to make sure that it correctly captures your background and is super succinct. So like I said, it's got to be numbers. Like, I want to see numbers. I want to see you drove this percentage growth, your marketing campaign accomplished this percentage of new users. Like, you need to have numbers. So I think an AI agent is just helpful. It'll just save you time as long as you're plugging in that correct information and then formatting it so that it best speaks to your background.
I agree wholeheartedly. I know just in writing resumes over this past year has been so much easier using AI. But the big key is, the big asterisk I always say is, read through this. AI loves to inflate what you've done and will actually create things that were not true on your resume. So if you're not reading through that and clarifying what has been written there by AI, and that goes with anything, anytime you're using AI and you're using it to write content or whatever, you have to proof it. It's a starting point. It's not the ending point. So I think that sometimes you hear some negative things about AI resumes and everybody's got one. If you're not proofing it and it's not true and you're lying on your resume, it's not a great partnership. So you've got to, you still do the work. Okay. We are almost at the end of time here. So let me ask one or two more questions here. One question asks, do we have AI certification programs? We do. Please take a look at nexford.edu and you can see how we incorporate AI into own certifications and into our programs as well. All right. It feels so weird when I'm interviewing to look at the camera rather than the interviewer on screen. How important is it to stare at the camera?
I know. I agree. It's so awkward. Like, I look at myself, then I look at the candidate, then I look at the camera. No one cares. Like, I've never ever been like, this candidate isn't making eye contact with me, therefore I don't like them. The only thing that would make a recruiter that would give us pause during a screen is if we can tell that you're reading something. Like, when I'm interviewing engineers, we ask them technical questions, and so I can see if they're reading the answer to the technical question off their screen. So that's the only time there's an issue with where your eyes are. But for the most part, as long as you're like looking in our general direction, then you're fine.
Yeah. Or I always tell people, don't have your camera here and be looking over here at the monitor, right? So I don't want to see the side of your face during the entire interview, or upward your nose sort of projection, right? Where they put the camera up and they're looking up at your face. So those things are important. You got to be straight on. Your eyes got really crazy. Okay, so here's one last one. I think this is a good one. I'm hitting a paper ceiling. I only have an associate's degree, but have over 25 years of experience. How do I overcome the bachelor's degree requirement?
That's a good question. Got to give a shameless plug for Nexford. They offer super affordable bachelor's degrees. So I get that it can be financially just not an option to get a bachelor's degree sometimes, but thank God there are so many programs like Nexford's where it's super affordable and it actually is an option. However, if that just isn't possible, like if you literally just cannot go get a bachelor's degree, I would say there are actually a lot of jobs that don't require that. Like, especially now that boot camps have become so popular. And again, let's talk about sales again. Like, a lot of sales jobs do not require a bachelor's degree because they know that if you have the soft skills, they can teach you everything you need to know on the job. So recommendation number one, go get an affordable bachelor's. But recommendation number two is pivot your job search to only focus on roles that don't require that.
That's perfect. And yes, definitely check out Nexford. I wish Nexford was around when my kids were going through their university years. It would have been so much easier.
Would have saved you a lot of money.
Oh my God, it would have saved so much money. It's crazy. It's such a new sort of, way to look at getting an education, even for our MBA programs, like a quarter of the price of what it costs. So please take a look at Nexford and their programs. I want to thank you, Julia, so much for sharing your insights with us today. Again, her firm is Aligned Recruitment, and you can find Julia on LinkedIn under Julia Arpag, ARPAG. Please check out our Nexford's NexPulse interview series, where we speak to industry leaders like Julia on hiring trends and how to prepare for a successful career. And that is located on our Nexford University YouTube channel. So thank you all so much for attending today, and please have a great day. This will be recorded and you can find it on our YouTube channel as well. Thank you so much, everyone.